Hello and welcome. My name is Dagmar Bowman, and I'm a Kripalu trained mindful outdoor guide and a yoga teacher who doesn't know how to meditate. And so I found out that sit spots practices, like 30 minutes of sitting still and connecting to the natural world around me, is what gets me into that state of calm. And for those of you who know me, you know that I spent 12 years in the Baltimore area and returned to Reno, which feels like recently, but actually it's been 6 months. And I still feel a little bit like I'm in the in-between. So I'm transitioning into what do I want to contribute to the world next. And I'm sitting with that discomfort of not exactly knowing what I need to do next. And I wanted to invite you into that space of transition because I know that as humans, we transition so many different times. And, whether that might be from when you finish school to your first job, or between jobs, or from being single to being in a partnership, or having children, or then not having children in the house anymore. There are just so many ways. Then losing animals or losing loved ones. So many ways to transition. And I found what helps me is first a grounding. So we did that in the first week, like taking the shoes off, returning to who am I even? And then in the second week, we looked into what is shedding and what needs to be shed. Like, that snake that you had seen, that's also an invitation to remember, to shed, to let go of what no longer serves us, or maybe an identity that we carried, a hat that we had on for a long time that we need to take off. And then last week, we talked about being comfortable with patience, being in the uncertainty, the not exactly knowing what comes next. And in that pause is an invitation to look for what is emerging. And it might just look like a tiny little bud, just like an idea. Like today I went to a new dentist and met new people, and the woman who was taking all the imagery, she had me sitting in a chair, and on the screen in front of me was a screensaver, which was beautiful spring flowers just emerging. And so we started having a conversation, and I really just said to her, do you sometimes wonder who created all this? How did these flowers come up with what they should look like? Like just that state of wonder. And we immediately connected. And so I told her what I was doing as a mindful outdoor guide. And she said, I am so interested in that. Where do you teach that? I want to learn. And so I sent her to my website, but that was my bud, my little emerging of that idea of, I really need to offer this locally. And I've been sitting in stillness, waiting for something to emerge, and maybe that was the sign. So let's find a sit spot for you today and see what kind of things, when we orient ourselves to nature, what might be emerging around and inside of you. So let your body begin to settle. And when we settle, to me, that feels like I allow the earth to hold me. So I take a deep breath in, join me with that, and a nice long, slow exhale out. Allow your shoulders to drop. Maybe you want to move a little. And perhaps soften your gaze away from the screen, or maybe let your eyes gently close, just to arrive fully. The Sufi poet Rumi said, listen to the silence. It has so much to say. And my favorite poet, Mary Oliver, she said, keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. Kind of inviting us to hold space for the wonders that life might bring, even those beyond your wildest dreams. Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. That's a simple yet so profound statement. It reminds us that life is not confined to the limits of our current understanding, our current expectations. Instead, it kind of beckons us to embrace the mysterious or the adventurous, the unseen possibilities. And they might just lie beyond the horizon of our imaginations. Keep some room in your heart for the unimaginable. So we'll begin with the hummingbee breath. It's a pranayama practice. Prana is your life force. Yama is the control of that life force. So the breath always comes in and out, but we can control it in order to set us up for a calming of the nervous system. So this one in particular that we're practicing this week, the hummingbee breath, Brahmari pranayama, it tunes us to the quieter frequencies inside of us. There's two ways how you can do it. Just watch first. The first way is there is a little cartilage half moon at the outside of your ear. You can use your thumbs and close that. But once you do, you cannot hear me anymore. So watch the other option first. You're using your fingers as well in the mudra, where your pointer finger touches above the eyelid, the middle finger below the eyelid, the ring finger above the lip, and the pinky finger below the lip, somewhere there. But make sure no pressure. It's just a really light feather touch. And then you use your thumbs to close the ears by pressing that little half moon as if it wants to close a lid. So it is said that then we hum. Yeah, so you can hum with your lips just lightly sealed, maybe even a little tiny little space in between. And you can practice a lower humming sound or a higher pitch sound just to see how the resonation feels differently inside of you. Your focus is above your head. So you can close your eyes. The idea is with your fingers, you close the eyesight, you close your nostrils symbolically, you close your mouth, you close your ears, and you draw your attention within. To me, when I do this breath, it has an immediate calming effect. We'll just do it 5 times. You can go at your own pace. So let's see whether it helps. Let everything settle. So let's decide how you want to do this. Take a big breath in. On your exhale, you hum. 4 more. One more. Allow your hands to drop back down into your lap. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Just sitting in the residue. Letting the hum fading into silence. Letting the sensation of the vibration echo inside of you. And then give yourself a little weather report, tending to your heart space, your emotional body. What are you carrying right now? Does it feel light and smooth or sharp, heavy. Whatever it is, acknowledge it, and then for the next few minutes, just lay it to the side. So begin to gently open your awareness to what's around you. Take a moment to listen to the birds. If you like, you can use your cupped hands as deer ears to amplify the sound. Noticing what kind of sounds are emerging around you out of the silence between the sounds. Perhaps you can even hear evidence of wind, rustling leaves, or grass blades. Just letting your senses soften as you become part of this landscape. Recognizing that we're not separate from it. Maybe you notice how the sunlight touches the edge of a new leaf. And then allow your eyes to rest for a while on a tiny detail. Maybe there is a bud opening or a shoot pushing through the soil or a subtle shift of a shadow where the light wants to peek through. Listening or gazing for what is emerging around you. And then with that feeling of connectivity to the land around you, maybe allow yourself to shift to noticing what's within you. Any feelings, intuitions, new ideas, gentle steerings. Feel into the quiet spaces in your heart where you might peer into some shaded undergrowth where life hides before it's ready to emerge. Maybe there's just a little whisper of becoming. If you like, you can hold this question in your awareness. What is just beginning to rise? Don't force answers, just simply listen. Your noticing can feel a little bit like sunlight, just warm and steady, no urgency. Outside, just stay present to subtle shifts. Here comes my yellow butterfly again. Just like the first bud breaking through the branch, the faintest bird song at dawn, maybe there is something that is emerging in nature and in yourself. We'll be here for another 5 minutes. You'll be hearing an owl sound to draw you back. Into that calm space, ask yourself, what is starting to grow within me? It might just be one word. Let one word arise. It might be a quality or a dream or a longing or a project. What is starting to grow in me? Don't edit it. Just one word. Keep that in mind. Let that be a seed. I want to finish with Mary Oliver's poem, Such Singing in the Wild Branches. It was spring, and I finally heard him amongst the first leaves. Then I saw him clutching the limb in an island of shade with his red-brown feathers, all trim and neat for the new year. First, I stood still and thought of nothing. Then I began to listen. Then I was filled with gladness, and that's when it happened. When I seemed to float, to be myself a wing or a tree, and I began to understand what the bird was saying. And the sands in the glass stopped for a pure white moment while gravity sprinkled upward, like rain rising. And in fact, it became difficult to tell just what it was that was singing. It was the thrush for sure, but it seemed not a single thrush, but himself and all his brothers, and also the trees around them, as well as the gliding, long-tailed clouds and the perfect blue sky. All of them were singing. And of course, so it seemed, so was I. Such soft and solemn, perfect music doesn't last for more than a few moments. It's one of those magical places wise people like to talk about. One of the things they say about it that is true is that once you've been there, you're there forever. So finding that place of connectivity, of belonging, and recognizing that there is an emergence, something that is coming back, like she said, it was spring and finally she heard him. So there was a lot of waiting, a lot of wintering before that emergence happened. So going back to last week, sitting with uncertainty, there's another emergence of the same yellow butterfly that flew by 3 times while I was sitting here. Letting something come to flutter outside and inside of you. So that word that is your seed, let's see where that takes you. Your homework for the next week is, in every walk in nature, find some evidence of something emerging. And then recognize that what we see outside of us, it's not outside of us. The seeing itself happens inside. And so that can kick off a whole experience of emergence. So thank you for listening deeply to things outside and inside of you. And keep your seed word in mind for the next week until we see each other again when we talk about next week. Not next week. Next week is a bye week in 2 weeks. The theme is trusting the process. Because nature doesn't hurry. Or have you seen a tree going like, oh my gosh, I have to get green right now. No, it's nature time, right? Everything takes its natural pace. A fellow German, Rainer Maria Rilke, said, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves." So sitting with the questions, seeing what it is that wants to emerge. In nature and in us, emergence is often slow and brave, but we have to keep tending to it. So to me, the sit spot with you is part of how I tend to it myself, and I hope that it is helpful to you. So let's take a big breath in together, and a cleansing exhale. And that completes your sit spot for today.